วัสดีค่ะ
Hi everyone, thanks for joining me for another video. It's one of those days today. I was going to actually go up on the roof and sit next to the pool. I thought it'd make a nice backdrop for the video upload today, but unfortunately Songkran has come and gone, and I think we're starting to get into the rainy season now. It's coming up to the end of April. We've had a few thunderstorms. I've just got back from Pattaya. It rained for a couple of days down there and I can hear thunder rolling. I've got a bit of a free afternoon today, so I thought why not wait to waste it and give you this video. Now this is a video that's been a long time coming. It's basically a video to explain how I was in a marriage with a family living in the UK and how I ended up living full-time in Bangkok, Thailand as a single man. And I want to tell you the story of how I got from that to this, starting in 1989 with some brief details, okay? Right, so my wife, to anybody who watches this channel regularly, you'll know that my former wife was from South Korea. I was married to her for approximately 31, 32 years, so it's quite a long time to be with a partner and then separate. So my background, to anybody who doesn't know me, if it's your first time here, I spent most of my adult lifestyle overseas and a lot of that time in Thailand. I first came here in 1991. I've been living here several times actually, and I've also visited the kingdom at least 100 times, probably more. But let's go way back to 1989 where I met my wife. So back then I was working for a number of agents, hotel agencies. They'd place you in various hotels around the world. And I also eventually ended up working for an international company by the name of Accor. They're a French hotel management chain company, whatever you want to describe, however you want to describe it. But they have an umbrella of hotels that they manage. At the high end, they have the Sofitel. At the lower end, they have Formula One in France, and then Ibis, Mercure, and Novotel. And I was working with them for a number of years. So I first met my wife in a place called Busan, South Korea. When I was there, it was called Busan. They had a name change. It's right on the south coast of South Korea. And my wife at the time, who was obviously single, was 19, and she was working in the reception of the hotel. That's where I met her, and a relationship developed between myself and her. Now, it wasn't really a very lovey-dovey kind of a relationship. It was more kind of boyfriend, girlfriend. And at that time, I didn't really think of her as any closer than any of my other girlfriends I'd had. I was a single man. I'd like to think I wasn't bad looking in those days before I put the weight on and got the wrinkles and the white hair. And you know, every country I went to, I had at least one girlfriend, sometimes more, as you do. And when I met my wife, very, very nice woman, she became my girlfriend, but that was pretty much it. And then I was sent to Beijing to work in a hotel in Beijing with an agent again at that time. And my wife basically called me up and said, could I come and visit you? I miss you. She was my girlfriend at the time, obviously. And I said, yeah, that's fine. Come over for a week. She came over. It could have been 2 weeks. I can't remember. And yeah, we hung out and she stayed with me and it was no problem at all. She went back, didn't think anything more of it. And still at that time, to me, it wasn't really serious. And about a month later, she called me again and said, look, can I come and see you again? But I want to stay for a month. If it's okay, I'll stay with you. And I'm like, yeah, fine, no problem. Glad of the company, you know, fine. So she came over and she stayed with me for a month and we got a bit closer. And to cut out all the details that you don't need to know, we ended up staying together, okay? She basically moved with me from China to my next gig, wherever that was. I can't remember. I went from South Korea. It was Indonesia. I opened a small... no, sorry, that came later. I'm getting tongue twisted now. She came with me to the next location, which it was 30 years ago. I can't remember where it was now. But anyway, from then on, she was with me. And I eventually got the job with Accor, and I first came to Thailand in the early 90s, I believe 1991, on a brief visit. But when I actually came here and settled here the first time, it was about 1994. I was part of the opening team of a hotel in Khon Kaen in Isan. It was called the Sofitel. I believe it's been rebranded now as a, I think it's a Portman. I'm not sure of the name of the brand, Pullman or Portman, something like that. But anyway, it's a big hotel in the centre of Khon Kaen, and I was part of the opening team for that hotel, which opened approximately 1996, and my wife was with me then, and she continued to stay with me. Now, after I left Khon Kaen, after the 2 years, they promoted me to executive assistant manager in an Ibis 200-bedroom hotel in a town called Yogyakarta in Indonesia. I believe it's north of Jakarta. Again, I can't remember, such a long time ago. But I didn't, there was nothing wrong with the hotel. It was a good position. When the manager was away, I was in charge basically. So, you know, nice position, lived in the hotel, insurance, air tickets home, the whole works, couldn't complain, good job. But, you know, I'd been bitten by the Thailand bug. I'd lived here for 2 years and I just had to get back. I couldn't stand it not being here. I'd fallen in love with the country, basically. Sounds corny, but I actually had, you know, the people, the food, just everything about Thailand. If you've been here before, you'll know exactly where I'm coming from. So I had to get back here one way or the other. Now, I'd met Simon, you know, the guy who did the Nat and Dave cartoons for me. He's been probably my best friend for the best part of 30 plus years. Now, I met him in the Novotel Siam Square about the same time that I came to Thailand. I had to come down and interview a Filipino music band. I ended up going to the Philippines to get one in the end because we couldn't find one here. They sent me to the Philippines. I brought one back to Khon Kaen. Turned out very good, actually. Deviating there. But I'd met Simon and we'd put a few ideas about businesses, because then it was a lot easier to get into business here. The rules weren't as strict and there were a lot more opportunities. And we talked about various things. And eventually it got to the point where I'd actually resigned from the hotel industry. I made a big decision and I thought, okay, I could probably make it with Simon here with some kind of a business. And we opened a small restaurant slash bakery in Siam Square, Soi 2 Siam Square. It was okay. We weren't going to get rich. I was surviving. But the problem was it was surviving. I was living in a room. I was living from day to day, and it wasn't what I wanted to do. You know, I don't see the point in flying 6,000 miles and living in a country to survive. You know, you want to have enough income to be able to, you know, have a nice life, enjoy yourself, do what you want to do. You know, so at that time, we were very fortunate because we had a bit of luck come our way, Simon and I, this is. And it was around the time of the dot-com boom. I'm sure you remember that, the 90s, the dot-com boom, late 90s, and then they had the bubble later on. Well, Simon and I got into website design here in Bangkok, and we were, you know, we were updating people's sites every week, and we got into the whole ID thing. We rented server space. And it was all new at that time, and we made quite a lot of money and we were living quite well, so we were enjoying ourselves. And then I moved into a real decent apartment in Soi 24. We've had several apartments off Sukhumvit. I've always lived off Sukhumvit while I've been in Bangkok. We lived in Soi 4, Soi 22, Soi 38, and then Soi 24 in a building called Sahai Place. Only a small block, 6 floors, huge, nice apartment, wooden floors, absolutely stunning. And we were living there. We had our first daughter with us, who was very, very young. She'd been born in Indonesia. We were making good money. We had a nice apartment. Everything was good. I had a lot of freedom because my wife would let me go to Pattaya with a friend, because she had friends. Being Korean, on Soi 11 here, up there, they have Koreatown. I think it's Soi 11, not far up the road from here. Koreatown, there's all the Korean restaurants. The Koreans all meet each other there. And while she was here, she had a lot of Korean friends who had children, and they had days out and they did things that mums do together with kids. So I basically had a bit of freedom, and I was free to go off and have fun and stuff. And it all worked out really well. No problems at all. But my wife and I at the time, we were kind of living separate lives. So we were under one roof, but she was doing her thing, I was doing my thing, and it didn't really feel like a real marriage, but it went on, you know. And then eventually my second daughter, my youngest daughter, was born over here on Rama 4. I forget the name of the hospital, an older hospital now. She was born over there. And my elder one started going to kindergarten here on Soi 24. But the problem is, here in Thailand, you need a lot of money if you've got a family, because everything's good, but it all has to be paid for. You know, in the UK, the schools are free, the hospitalisation, the NHS is free. Okay, you pay taxes, but you don't get a bill when you go into hospital. You don't get a bill when you come out, like you do here. It's very, very good, but you pay for it. And at the time, my eldest daughter was going to kindergarten, it was costing me, I can't give you figures, it was so long ago, but I remember it was costing quite a lot out of our income. And, you know, I had to buy a uniform, little pink cap she used to wear, you know, books and bags and every little thing you had to buy. And she was getting, eventually she got to near proper school age, you know, where she'd go to a normal school. My younger daughter was about time for kindergarten. And my wife and I sat down one night and we just calculated it all. This was about 1999. And we just figured, you know what, if we have to pay for their schooling, 2 of them, and all the hospitalization, if we have bad luck and all that, we're going to struggle, and it's not going to be a life. It's going to be you know, we're going to be clawing through every day. So at that time, we had some savings, and we decided to make the move back to the UK. Children were young, 3 years difference. I can't remember. I think my eldest was about 7 at the time, 6, 7, and my younger one was probably about 3, 3.5. So because of the cost, we decided to move back to the UK. I bought a small house for cash. I was lucky. Prices were okay back then, and I'd saved up enough over the years, so I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have any rent. I went back first for a month. My wife went back to Korea with the kids. I bought the house, furnished it, and then eventually she came over to the UK. But you know what? I didn't like it. It's very hard when you've been living in foreign countries and you've enjoyed your life for a number of years, like I had, many, many years, to suddenly be plonked back down in a market town in the middle of England, living a normal, boring life. It wasn't easy. And what happened is I started to drink quite a lot of alcohol. I'd never been a big drinker in the hotel industry. I socially drank. You had to drink with customers. People would invite you to dinner. They'd crack a bottle of wine open. You'd go to a bar. They'd buy you a beer. Everyone drank back then, as they do now, I guess. But I was never a big drinker. But the problem was in the UK, I didn't have any friends because I'd lost what friends I'd had. I'd been abroad so many years that I just lost contact with everybody. Other than my wife and my kids who were very young, that was it. And my wife used to get a bit fed up with my drinking. You know, she'd go to bed, I'd sit up, I'd get drunk every night. I didn't abuse her or anything like that, or knock her about or anything, but small arguments had happened. I'd wake up hungover every morning, and I'd be very picky about things, and we'd have these little irritable arguments, mainly my fault, but they were there anyway. And I thought, well, I've got to pick myself up, I've got to do something, and I've got to get back to Thailand. So I came up with a strategy that I would open a business in the UK, which would allow me to come back to Thailand periodically, so I could get my fix, as it were. And the business I came up with was an import business, which worked very well for about 2 years. So what I used to do was fly over from Heathrow, stay in Bangkok for about a week, 8 days. I'd go to Sampeng, Chinatown, where they sell all the jewellery displays, you know, these small ring boxes. When you buy a ring, you get a box with a flip lid, you know, these black velvet stands that you put gold chains on. Anything to do with displaying jewellery, the smaller shops and market stores, they kind of buy that stuff. I was also buying boxes of mood rings, you know, they change colour depending on your mood, supposedly. Pewter rings, you know, I was buying them at £10 a box and selling them at £40 a box in the UK on eBay, so 75% profit. And it worked out for every £10,000 I spent, after all the stock had been paid for, all the flights and my week in Bangkok, my profit after all that was about £5,000, which was great because it got me to Bangkok every 2 months for a week. It was a legitimate reason for coming here. It was my business. So eventually the market dropped out of that, because what happened, they started selling it direct from China. My profit margins got lower and lower and lower, to in the end it would have been cheaper for me to just buy it off somebody in China, and I wouldn't have made any money on it. At the bottom, just completely crashed out of the market for that particular product anyway. I looked around at other products, and there was nothing that I could see that I could import into the UK and make good money on, not pennies, good money to be able to justify a trip. So I didn't go to Thailand anymore for a number of years. I tried some businesses in the UK, some were successful, some weren't. I had a taxi company for a while, a couple of black cabs, private hire cars. Unfortunately for me, a number of the drivers were stealing from me. It's a cash business. You can't be there 24 hours a day. The profits were very good, but I seen very low income because it was, you know, that was before the days of trackers, you know, on the car. They've all got trackers on them now. And people pay with credit cards, debit cards in the taxi. They didn't back then. It was all cash. So that was a bit of a disaster. Now, this video is not about the history of me. It's about how my wife and I after 30 years separated, and then I ended up sitting here on my own in Thailand, and I want to give you my thoughts on, was it a good thing, was it a bad thing? And then at the end of the video, I want to offer you some advice on what you should do if you decide to do it and what you shouldn't do. Okay, so let's continue with this story. So I'm in a dark place at the moment. I'm drinking a lot of alcohol. I'm bored. I've got no friends. My wife's unhappy with me because of the drinking. My kids are too young to really get involved with me. I did try taking them out on a few days out and stuff, but you know, I can't blame my wife. I've got to be honest with you. If I put my hands up here, I would say that most of the arguments in our household over the years were my fault, because one, it was fueled by alcohol, and secondly, I was just so fussy. You know, if my daughter threw something on the floor, I'd say pick it up and put it in its basket, the washing. If she didn't, you know, I'd lose it, which is wrong, isn't it? Absolutely wrong. The only thing I'd say in my defense, because we started to have more and more arguments, and it just got to the point where I got really stressed, you know. I mean, I got white hair in nearly 18 months. I had black hair, and it went white. I was so stressed out. I can't explain to you here how depressed, not depressed, that's the wrong word, how fed up and stressed out I was. Every day was a grind, you know. I'd wake up, the same routine, you know. I could tell you what I did 6 months ago would be the same in 6 months' time, you know. It was get up, walk the dog, have some breakfast, you know, if it was a summer, mow the lawn, do some work on the computer, have another walk, have some dinner, have a shower, go to bed, do the same the next day. Really, it was a grind, and I wasn't happy, you know. And bearing in mind now, I'd been all over the world, I'd lived the high life, I'd been working in some nice hotels, and it wasn't a case of I felt privileged and I felt, it wasn't that I thought I was owed it or I deserved it or I was better than somebody else. It wasn't that. It was just I knew where I was at that time wasn't the place. It didn't fit. It wasn't me, and I wasn't happy, and I knew I would never settle down. I would never get into that vibe of living a normal life in the UK, washing my car on the drive on the Sunday like my neighbours did. It just wasn't me. And because I had not much going on, no friends, my wife and I were arguing more and more, mainly, as I say, my fault. The only thing I'd say in my defence was that she'd always side with the children, even when they were wrong. You know, sometimes kids will do something wrong, a parent tells them off, and the other parent supports that parent and says, you know, your dad's right. If I said, look, you know, pick the clothes off the floor, put them in the basket, you don't need to throw them on the floor. Instead of my wife saying, your dad's right, don't throw them on the floor, there's a basket there, she'd turn around and say, well, she's just got home from school, she's tired, she'll do it later. So that enforces the child's thinking that they're right and I'm wrong, and that caused a lot of arguments between my wife and I, because, you know, I just didn't like it. So let's get away from all these nitty gritty details, because it's going on a bit now. I'll get to the main event, as it were. So my wife had told me several times that she wasn't happy with the situation and she wanted to separate, something very crucial I've left out. At the time we came back, we moved to a town called Kings Lynn in Norfolk, because Simon, my friend at the time, was with his wife and kids in the UK. As you know, he's back here now, he's got his business, he's happy here as well. But we'd actually originally moved back in the year 2000 to Kings Lynn. We'd bought a house. After 3 years we sold it, and then we moved to a market town called Kettering, and I bought a nice 4-bedroom house that we'd had it 18 months, and I did a lot of improvements on it. You know, I opened up the kitchen through to the dining room, I changed all the door handles to chrome, I changed the fireplace, decorated it multiple times, remodeled the garden, built an office in my garage, you know. So I was quite attached to my house, but at the end of the day, it's just bricks and mortar and you can't take it with you. So my wife had made it very clear that she wasn't happy. You know, at that time, when we were in Kettering, she was now working, and, you know, she come home, she just wanted an easy life. I don't blame her. You know, and there'd be arguments. She'd walk in the door, something wasn't right, and we'd end up arguing. I'd slam a door, and that was it. We didn't talk for the rest of the night, and it just wasn't a good place for any of us, actually. But I was very resistant, because I'd been with my family for over 30 years, and I just couldn't imagine not having them around. You know, I used to send them to Korea every 2 years because it's expensive. She used to go home and see her family, take the kids, but because the airfares were so expensive, I used to book it for 6 weeks. This is when my wife wasn't working, so they could make the most of it. So I was used to being in the house by myself. It was a bit of a novelty because I knew they were coming back. I used to hide drink alcohol for my wife, so when she went, you know, I could put it out on the table and, you know, watch all sorts of strange things on TV, and it was a bit of a man cave, you know, but that's short-lived, isn't it? So I didn't really like the idea that I was going to live on my own. I had visions of me living in a one-bedroom flat apartment in England with no friends, little money. It gets dark at 3:30 in the winter, raining, miserable. I'd be one of those people who would become a Mr. Angry, you know, grumbling and telling shop workers off because I wasn't happy with things, but actually deep down I wasn't happy with myself. So I didn't want to end up like that. And I found it very, very hard to accept that my wife wanted to separate with me. And I just could not bring myself to sit down and say, okay, we'll do it. And in fact, at one point, what I did, and might be hard to believe, but I actually did do this. It was about 2 years ago. We had quite a harsh winter with snow. I went out. I had this theory. I thought, well, maybe we've been together for so long. Maybe she just needs her space. And I thought, well, if I, you know, go away for 2 months and she doesn't see me at all, she might come round. Well, I couldn't afford to stay in Thailand for 2 months at that time. I didn't want to rent a hotel, and I still needed access to my office and everything. So I bought a 2-berth caravan and I put it on our drive, and luckily my drive is quite large and I was able to stick it in the corner, and the neighbours could only see the roof. I'm in a cul-de-sac anyway, so nobody came down there, and it was great because my wife came home from work at 6:10, so I'd use my house in the daytime. Children were there at the time, so they were grown up by now. We're much later on. This is like this is about 2020 now, and the kids have grown up. My youngest daughter's at university, my eldest daughter's moved out and she's got her own business now, and I bought this caravan. So what I would do is I would use my office in the garage, I would use the house, I would fill up with water and my beers in the fridge. I had a little fridge and a toilet and everything. I'd get rid of the waste in the morning once she'd gone to work. I'd stock it up in the daytime with everything I needed. I'd use the house normally, you know, I'd watch TV in the daytime if I had an hour to spare, use the washing machine. I used the house like normal, but had my dinner at 5:30. By 6 o'clock, I was in that caravan, the blinds were drawn, had Netflix in there because the signal off the drive reached the house, so it's very comfortable. Had my own mini bar, toilet. It was very warm, the bedroom was comfortable, and that was it. I lived in it for 2 months thinking that would resolve the issues between my wife and myself, because she would have time to get over it, as it were. But it never happened. And what happened, I eventually moved back into the house. I sold the caravan, and everything was exactly the same. And of course I got more angrier then because I felt like I'd made the effort and nothing had changed, but actually I hadn't really. All I'd done was disappeared, hadn't I? So it started to get more and more serious. She kept talking about, you know, I've had enough, and you know, she wasn't shouting and screaming at me, but we just had to sit down and iron out the details. I just found it so hard. I couldn't accept it, you know. I just could not accept it, and I tried everything to avoid it. And it was strange. Now that it's happened, I'm really happy, and I'll get into the life in Thailand and everything. But at the time, I just couldn't imagine my life without her and my kids, and I just thought I wouldn't be able to go on, you know. And that's not what happened. So eventually, let's move forward on this now. So eventually, it got to the point where we sat down together and we decided, we went through the mechanics of how it was going to happen. I've got one or two small rental properties. So I said to my wife, look, we didn't involve any solicitors. We sat down like two adults. We're still friends. We don't hate each other. I still love her actually to this day, but in a more of a friend way, not a wife way. And I think she feels the same, and we still have contact. I'll get into that again later as well. But basically we sat down and we decided the logistics of how we were going to do it, and the process started from there. We started arranging the house sale. Eventually we had sold it, and then they dropped out, which we were disappointed about. And then we had a nice couple who bought it, who were professionals, and they were really serious about it. We knew they were serious about it because they'd looked at other properties, and we just knew anyway. And somebody had bought their place already. They were in a flat. They needed to size up, as it were. And it was just a waiting game then. So at the time I thought, well, there's no point hanging around here. I bought a ticket. If you're a regular viewer on my channel, you'll know I came to Thailand. I went to Pattaya. I lived out of a suitcase for 2 months. That was no fun. But it was nice being in Pattaya. You do get fed up of it. There'll be guys watching this video saying, are you crazy? You know, they go to Pattaya for 2-3 weeks on holiday, and here they are listening to me saying I got bored in Pattaya. You do. I lived in Pattaya for a number of years, and you do get bored of it. You'll find anybody who lives a life in Pattaya full time, they're not in the entertainment every night. You know, they normally live away from it. But I lived down there for 2 months, and then eventually I came up back to Bangkok. I sorted out my visa down there, got a nice long-term visa. I found this condo, which I'm very happy with, in the heart of Sukhumvit. And the reason I bought this in the heart of the Sukhumvit, I imagined that when my wife and myself split up, I might get a bit depressed being lonely here. And just down the road, there's a lot of bars and restaurants. I'm in the heart of it here. And that actually never happened at all. I'm really surprised at it. So the day came when we had to sell when the house sold, the finalised. I paid for the solicitors and the movers and all that sort of thing, and we decided the amounts of money. And I said to her, "Well, look, you tell me what you need to buy your house." She ended up buying a brand new 3-bedroom house on a new estate with an integrated garage. Very nice house. I've seen the video that they sent me. She's very comfortable, although she just broke her ankle falling down the stairs after like 2 days of living there, 3 days. So she's got 2 months off work, and she's frustrated because she can't unpack, which must be frustrating. But we did this deal, and so we decided, so she got the house, I took a little bit of money out of it, but I got the rental, so it was kind of even Stevens, as they say, and that was it. So the day comes, we've got the movers booked in, but we're all on a knife's edge because in the UK, you know what it's like. You're part of a chain. Anybody can drop out at any moment, and it's not until them contracts have completed that you know you're good to go. And we didn't actually complete until the lunchtime of the day that I was going to Heathrow to come back to Thailand, and she was moving in to her new apartment. So the house is empty now. Everything's been loaded into the vans. We're all sitting there waiting for that magic phone call from the lawyers to say, yep, the money's in, you can go, and we move. And it never happened. We sat there and we sat there and we sat there. In the end, it got to about 12:30, and I said to my wife, look, you know, this is a Saturday. I don't know what time the sales office closed. You better go round there and tell them you're just waiting for the call, because you'll have nowhere to live. Because my wife, we were out. All the stuff was out the house. I was okay. I was coming to Heathrow to stay in a hotel. So she goes round there, and on the way out, she stops and she says, look, you know, no hard feelings. I don't regret anything. You know, take care of yourselves. Try not to drink so much. And she left, and it was pretty emotionless, really, until later when I thought about it. But that was it. And my daughter stayed behind because, you know, my wife said, look, when I get the key, when it's all confirmed, I get the key, I'll call you. You can tell the kids and they can come round, and that's it. And we can all go our separate ways. So eventually the call comes about 1 o'clock, and I said, Mum's got the key, you can go. They pick up their few bits and pieces. They head out the back door, and I say, hang on, wait for me, because they're both driving. And I forget what I was doing, but anyway, eventually I came out and I spoke to them, and I said, look, you know what dads say to the daughters, normal sort of thing. And I was surprised they both of them burst out crying. Well, of course, when that happened, I started, you know, I couldn't hold back. Not boo-hoo-hoo, but, you know, the tears were coming down. And it was very, very emotional with my kids. So they went off. I went inside, and you know, it took me 5 minutes to dry my eyes and everything. Very sad. But that was it, you know, and I'd arranged with a friend to take me down to, it was actually Franco. We made a little video, I don't know if you remember that. Franco, one of the moderators on the channel here, nice car, he offered to take me down. I paid his day off from work, so, you know, he didn't lose out. He probably would have done it for nothing, but I'm not like that. And that was it, I was on my way to Heathrow. So Franco drops me off at the Hilton Hotel on Bath Road at Heathrow. I was booked onto a Thai Airways flight at lunchtime the following day, business class, never flown business class, thought I'd treat myself. The video's on the channel if you're interested. And that was a pretty tough night in the hotel, because there I was, a man of 62 at the time, been married for over 30 years, had a family, and suddenly I was on my own in an airport hotel with my thoughts and nothing else. I called my wife just to make sure everything was okay. She got very, very emotional on the phone. She basically told me like she had no regrets and it just didn't work out and we're all still friends. And yeah, I mean, it was nice. It was a nice phone call, but again, it was very, very emotional. I turned to my old friend, you know, Cronenberg, had a few of them just to try and settle down, which I shouldn't have done, but it didn't. It worked. Anyway, next day, gets up, goes to the airport, flies to Bangkok. What's lucky for me really is that I had everything set up before I came here. So, you know, I've got my long-term visa, I've got my condo, I've now bought my scooter, And yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much set up. You know, I've got YouTube that keeps me busy in the daytime. I've made friends here. I often, viewers phone me up. Sometimes I can't meet them because I'm too busy. Some people take it the right way. Some people get upset and think I'm avoiding them, which I'm not. But I have met a lot of viewers out here. We've had lunches, we've had a few beers together. They've all been nice guys in Bangkok. Anyway, I had one weirdo down in Pattaya. That's a different story. But yeah, everybody I've met here in Bangkok, all the viewers who've phoned me and said, look, I'm in town, let's meet for a beer or let's meet for lunch. I've gone out and met most of them. It's been a pleasure from my side to meet them. They've all been nice guys, all subscribers to this channel, and it was great meeting them all. So here we've got to the stage now that I'm now here, my family's all sorted out, and here I am in my condo. Right, I'm very lucky for several reasons. So why am I very lucky? Okay, I can imagine a guy, I know there are a lot of marriages that fail, that break down, that get very, very ugly. And what happens is they involve lawyers. The two individuals involved in the marriage, they eventually hate each other to the point that they're trying to make as many problems for each other as they can. It's ugly. And what happens is there's children involved. Each of the parents are bidding to win the affections of that child or children to be the favoured parent. It always happens. They're paying out a lot of money to lawyers, solicitors in England, and it's just a real ugly scene. And what happens is once the marriage is over, the court case is over and everything's been finalised, that's it. Most of the time, if he's lucky, the father will have limited access to his children, because 99 times out of 100, the court will award custody of the children to the mother. I kind of agree with that, because a mother's a mother after all, and the father gets visitation rights, you could say, like that. But it was ugly, and there's no contact whatsoever between other than maybe picking up the kids. There's no contact. So I've been very, very lucky, because my wife and myself, we're still very good friends. We parted in a nice way. She's actually said to me, look, if anything happens to you out there in Thailand, let me know, we'll come out and bring you back. I mean, how nice is that, right? Which was a very emotional, again, when she told me that. My daughters, although I wasn't very, very close to them growing up, they are my daughters. Blood's thicker than water, as they say. It's a cliche, but it's true. They've asked if they can come out here and visit me. I've just paid about £1,400 for 2 air tickets. They're coming out here for only about 8 days, because my daughter works and they've got limited time off. So they'll be here for about 8 days. I booked them into a hotel close by. They don't want to stay in the apartment with Dad. So I paid for the air tickets. They're coming out. So I'm really looking forward to seeing them. I'm going to take them to some nice touristy spots, elephant shows, snake farms, that sort of thing. And I often contact my wife. I'll say, if I'm in a restaurant having a nice meal, I'll send her the picture, because she's Asian. You know, she likes hot, spicy food like the Thais do. So sometimes I'll wind her up and I'll send her a picture of a fresh crab or something. She's like, oh, you're so lucky being out there. I wish I was there. You know, and we're the best of friends, and I'll support her. And if she ever gets financially, she needs some help financially in the future, I'll try my best to help her. It's not about finding new partners, new girlfriends, new boyfriends. Even if I did or she did, it doesn't matter. We were together for over 30 years, so there is that bond that will never disappear. And that's one reason I think I'm very, very lucky. So I'm here. My children have come out to visit me. My wife is still probably my best friend. And I haven't actually got lonely at all. In fact, now that I'm here, I realised all those delays, I'm the one who couldn't accept it. All the times I told myself it's going to be terrible, I'm going to be on my own. The best decision I ever made in my life was to move to Thailand. I've now got friends. I've got a nice condo, I've got my scooter, I visit Pattaya quite often, I lay on the beach, you know, I drink cold beers. My drinking's under control now. I still drink, but not like I used to. You know, and you know, frankly speaking, it's a good life out here. If you can afford to live out here, you know, I make a little bit of money with YouTube. I'm not going to get rich, but I do make some money with YouTube. I've got a little bit of money coming in from my rental properties. And I've got some concerns here in Bangkok as well, which I don't want to get into because they're very personal. So I'm kind of doing okay. I'm 63. How long will it last? I don't know. I hope at least to get 10, 15, maybe even 20 years out of it. And then I don't know what the last chapter in my life will be. But what I would say, if you're one of those guys out there and you're sitting in a failed marriage, or it's just not happening and you're really fed up and you can afford it, and you've been to Thailand to visit and you liked what you've seen and you want to do it, I would say just do it, you know. have a good think about it, what to do. And yeah, I mean, I've got no regrets whatsoever. It's the best decision I've ever made. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about the mechanics of actually moving, just to help you out if you want to come out here. So okay, so let's just talk about the main sort of things you need to think about if you are coming out here full time. There's one paramount bit of advice I'll give you, okay? Two actually. Whatever you budget, put 25% on top of it, okay? Because you will always never budget correctly, and there's nothing worse than living in paradise with no money. I've seen it so many times. Guys come out here, they retire too early, they run out of money, they end up hating the tourists because they've got cash to throw around the bars, and they get very bitter, okay? So don't come out here with less money than you need. Some guys will do their calculations and they just get it totally wrong, okay? I'm going to plug my other business here at the moment. I do a one-on-one consultancy. If you're one of those guys and you need a lot more information out here and you just want to have a chat with me for a very small fee, you can book me from anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours, a one-on-one consultation. I'll send you a link. I'll bring you into a private, secure stream. We just sit and talk like two guys in a bar. You list out your questions. I'll talk about anything you want to talk about, as long as it's legal, even girls, and I'll offer you any advice you need, you want to know about. There is a link in the description below. Just contact me, and we'll organise a date and a time, and we can talk to each other like this. And I've helped a lot of guys in the past with these consultancies. I do plan to put up some comments from guys. I haven't collected enough yet. I've just been a bit lazy. Okay, so yeah, what you need to think about, now that plug is out of the way, now I've done that. One of the most important things is the ladies, okay? You know, I've seen guys' plans go up in smoke. They come out here, they've got enough to retire, or they've come out here with businesses, and they're not used to the entertainment scene. And what happens, they come out here, within the first few weeks, they get very, very lonely if they were married. And so what do? They go down to a bunch of bars, they sit with a pretty girl who's telling them how handsome they are and what a good heart he's got, and he's the first guy to talk to them nicely that they've ever met in their lives. And you know, he invites her to dinner, then he's lonely, so he bar finds her, brings her back to his apartment. He does it again, then he starts getting jealous. Well, if I don't bar find her, somebody else will bar find her. And then he lays awake all night thinking about her with that other guy, so he'll bar find her just to stop her going with it. You know, unfortunately, it's a vicious cycle. And what happens is you can run out of money very, very fast, because these girls are very manipulative. They're very clever, and they know how to dig deep into your pockets. They know how to play with your heartstrings. So the biggest part of advice I'd give to you, you've got to be tough when it comes to the ladies, okay? If you want a girlfriend, get on Tinder, get on Badoo, read what they write about themselves. You know, a lot of people are scared of meeting lady boys or whatever. She's got kids. Some guys don't like women who got kids, but most of them are honest on these dating sites. You know, they'll say, I'm a lady boy, but I'm looking for love. I'm not a hooker, as it were. Or they'll say, you know, I'm 45 and I've got a kid of 18. I'm looking for a long-term relationship. No games, thank you very much. So a lot of guys just flick through the pictures. They don't actually take the time to read the bio. So if you feel like you need somebody while you're out here full time, try and get yourself a girlfriend who loves you for who you are, not somebody who's with you because you're paying them a salary. That's the first bit of advice I'd give you. The second bit of advice I'd give you, and that is very important, that thing with the girls, now just sweep that all under the carpet. You don't need it. The second bit of advice I'd give you, I'm assuming that if you're thinking of coming out here, then you've been out here before, either on holiday or on a business trip, or, you know, 1 or 2 times in the past. I can't imagine somebody just taking a pin and popping it in a map and saying, Thailand, I'll go there. You've obviously been here 1 or 2 times, or I'll assume you've been here. So something you want to think about is, where do you want to live? What part of the country? For me, I like Bangkok. A lot of people don't like living in a city. I get people write to me and say, why would you live in Bangkok, Peter, when you could live in Pattaya? I've got my reasons, too many to get in here. This video isn't about why I live in Bangkok, but I've just chosen to live here. A lot of guys like to live in Pattaya because they like that lifestyle down there, beach, sun and girls, nightlife, very Western down there. Everybody speaks English. A lot of guys, they don't like that. They prefer to live in a much more subdued seaside town like Chatham or Rayong or Hua Hin, which has got a bit of everything, but it's not overrun with, you know, foreign tourists being drunk. And some guys choose the village life. They'll go up to Isan, they'll live with some little Thai girl in a traditional Thai house. They spend hardly anything, and that suits them. But the problem with that is alcoholism can kick in because there's nothing to do up there and you can get very bored. So you need to spend a few weeks at least, or a month minimum, and in the location where you think you want to live, and see if it's for you. And once you decide, yeah, that's where you want to live, then you want to be looking for some decent accommodation. And when I say decent, you might think, well, I'm going to be real cheap and really go the budget, and I'm going to rent myself just a room. Well, you know, when you get to my sort of age and you've been living in a 4-bedroom house or a 3-bedroom house, I don't know where you live, you want something a bit more than a room. You know, you want at least 1 bedroom. You need that space, because let's face it, if you do get a girlfriend, and you're in the same room 24/7, you know, sometimes it's nice to get away, isn't it? Like, she can sit and watch her Thai dramas in the lounge and you can go in the bedroom and work on your computer, for instance. It does make the difference. So you need somewhere to live, you need a location. Very, very important, you need a long-term visa, and I would strongly recommend using an agent for your first one at least. You pay them probably about $1,000. They facilitate your long-term visa. All the details about having a bank account, they can do that for you, all in. All the rules about having so much money in the bank or an income, they sort all that out for you. Can't get into details on that right here, but it's easy, a lot easier. If you're thinking about getting a visa here, it's a lot easier to do it in Pattaya than it is in Bangkok. It's just faster, it's cheaper down there. So anything to do with visas, you want to down there, some good companies. And again, if you need recommendations, I won't put them in the comments, but if you want to write to me or you know, do the consultancy thing, we can talk about that. Yeah, so you've got your condo, you've got your visa, cash is, you want to sort out your banking, that's very important. Once you've got your visa, you're going to have an account probably with Bangkok Bank. You want to tell your bank back home that you're living in Thailand. Don't say all the time, say for most of the time, because banks in the UK especially won't allow you to have an account if you don't have if you're not a resident of the UK. If you say you're leaving for good, you're going to live in Thailand. It happened to Simon. He had a letter from NatWest or whoever he was with, and they basically said, you can't bank with us anymore because you're not a resident of the UK. I have a footprint, I have an address in the UK because I've got properties, I've got rent coming in, I pay tax on those rents, so I have a footprint. If anything happens in the future, I can use the NHS for any health issues, so I'm sorted that way. The other thing, talking of health, you've got to think about is your do you want health insurance? Which company you're going to go with if you're getting on a bit like I am, or you might choose to do what I'm doing. I'm self-insuring. I put quite a lot of money in a bank account. I'd said initially 300,000 on the last video about health insurance. It's actually more like $1 million now, standby. And if it's an ongoing long-term thing, like I said, I can get back to the UK. You need to think about all that. It's very, very important. Okay, so once you've got all that under your belt, once you've found your location, you've got your condo, you've got your long-term visa, that's it, you're on your way almost. You're really ready to go. The final thing you need to think about is, what do you need to bring here and what don't you need to bring here? Because a lot of guys don't know, you know, if they haven't been here that often. So let's talk about meds first, medicines. A lot of older guys are on prescription drugs, as I am. I'm on a scalp lotion that I use once a month because I have a scalp condition. I take anti-reflux acid tablets. Now, I was on only 2 when I came out here. As it happens, the doctors here have put me on hypertension, high blood pressure, to bring down my blood pressure. I'm kind of like 55. It shouldn't be higher than 45. So not extremely high, but I'm trying to control it with diet. And for the moment, I've gone on meds. So you don't need to worry about prescriptions. If you take prescription drugs that normally you go to see your doctor, he'll write out a prescription. Then you take it to your pharmacy, chemist, wherever. Here in Thailand, you'll buy everything over the counter. It's not overly expensive. You just take a photograph of the product you're using, the medicine you're taking, go to the pharmacy here, and they'll sell it to you straight over the counter. Another bit of advice I'd give you on medicine: always ask for the Thai version, because being a foreigner, when you go in and you say, have you got this, the first thing they'll offer you is a product by Faisal, for instance, which is, I'll give you an example. I went to get statins, a month's supply of statins. They're the most expensive medicine I take. The anti-reflux cost me 85 baht, just over £2 for a month's supply, $3, right? That's for my anti-reflux. Statins, on the other hand, are quite expensive, but not overly expensive. So I went into a pharmacy and I just said, look, I showed them a box from the UK and I said, I need 20 milligrams statins, blah, blah, blah. First thing they give me, box of, I hope I pronounced it properly, Pfizer, the same people who make Viagra. And I said, how much are they? She said, 3,500 baht. And I said, okay. I said, do you have a Thai equivalent? Yes, we do. And the Thai medicine is just as good. It's not a banana republic, so very, you know, a very sophisticated country now. You know, it's up there with the rest of them. So you haven't got any worries there. And I said, how much is the Thai version? They said 1,200 baht. Looked at it, absolutely fine. Take that. So that cost me 1,200. So that's the thing. When you go for your medicines, you don't need a prescription. You can get it over the counter. Just make sure you get when they offer you the medicines, ask them for the Thai version, and you'll get it like at 25% of the cost of the imported version. The other thing is here, hospitals are great. First class dentists. I'm now looking to have laser treatment on my eyes. I've never had it. People tell me it's good and it's well done here. I want to have I've got 3 pairs of glasses for different, you know, I've got one for reading, one for on my PC and one for long range. You know, I want to get rid of them all and have the laser vision, as it were. And it's good here, as is most things. So that's the other thing there. So that's your medication sorted out. That's your banking sorted out. Now, the only other thing you need to think about is your toiletries. What do you bring with you? What do you leave behind? They've pretty much got everything here. The only thing I would say when you come out for the first time, what I would tend to bring out, and I was lucky, I brought out 10 cans and I got through with them. I wasn't sure. Because obviously they wouldn't explode even in an aircraft because they're designed not to. But the thing I brought a lot of was deodorants, because in the UK you can buy a big can like that for about £1.70. That's $2 US, and that lasts me for a month. I don't like the roll-on ones. And if you go to 7-Eleven or any of the pharmacies, I haven't seen another cheaper one. They do a little one called Axe. It's about that size. You shake it, it feels like you get 2 squirts out of it, and that's about £4, $4.50, so it's expensive. There's probably, I have seen in Boots or Watson's, they're the international pharmacies here, I've seen bigger ones, not as big as a UK one, but kind of that size, and they were expensive. As far as soaps, shampoos, toothbrushes, toothpaste, shaving foam, razors, the lot, you can buy it here. It's not expensive. You can pick, I buy the razors in 7-Eleven. I buy a razor for 20 baht, that's 20 pence, 25 cents. I do 3 shaves and I chuck it. The water's soft here, so don't cut yourself very often. So the only thing with your toiletries, I just think about the deodorant, but everything else you can get out here. And then if you have people visit you, like my daughters are coming out in November, then I'll ask them to put 2 cans each in their suitcases. I would definitely get all the apps when you come out here. GoToEat, Grab, Bolt, Food Panda. They're all very, very good. You can read up on all them separately. And there isn't pretty much more to say about what you should do when you come out here. The only last thing I'd touch on is when you actually make that move and you're getting on the flight and you decide what you want to bring out here with you. The only thing I'd say, think about your clothes. It's getting better here now to what it was 30 years ago, but they are starting to have some big man shops. You know, I mean, a lot of guys are big naturally. It doesn't mean they're overweight. They're just big. And you know, the Thai, you go into a typical Thai soup like Lotus, it used to be Tesco's, they've got a big clothes section, but you'll never get anything to fit you unless you've got the body frame of a Thai. Then yeah, that's different. But most Western guys are much bigger, and it's very difficult to get shirts and pants and stuff. And what you want to think about that. So for instance, when I went back for the month, when I came back here, I brought back, I think, a dozen pants and a dozen underwear and socks, and maybe 10 nice, maybe 6 shirts like this, nice polos, and a load of t-shirts, and just some very, you know, shorts. It's just hard to find it here. But saying that, there is more and more shops opening for bigger guys. And in fact, this morning I had a message from a guy called Steve, a viewer, who occasionally texts me, said there's a shop that's opened up opposite Pantit Plaza for, and they do real big sizes. And in fact, I think I'm going to go down there and make a video about the shop, because they speak English and they have big sizes. So that's handy to know if you're here in Bangkok. Other than clothes, I'd say, your personal effects, maybe, you know, obviously you can digitize all your photographs. They're going to be heavy, so digitize them, and that's pretty much it. You know, a few personal effects, your clothes. Now, If you don't want to throw everything away, you might have friends or family back home that you can leave things with just in case you ever wanted it. For instance, I've got some very rare books on the RAF and the 8th Air Force from the Second World War with colorized pictures. Some of the, I've got one book that was written in 1938 with an inscription, "Happy Birthday Johnny from Gran, 1938," about the RAF, right? So obviously I'm not going to throw that in the bin. I've got some real good color aviation books, so I've left them with Franco. I don't know if I'll ever see them again, but they were too good to throw out. You can do the same. If you want to bring it out here, it's possible to use couriers. Just do door-to-door courier. I've got a viewer, he's got a classic music system. I don't know if antique's the right word to use, but he's got a music system that it's, you know, the old style with the speakers, with the material on the front and all the different units, and he wants to keep that. He likes the sound of it, and I said to him, look, you know, just get down, go to your local courier, like a DHL or I can't give you all the names now, but you know who I mean, and just get a quote from them. You know, they'll come and pack it for you and put it on the van, on the aircraft, and it will turn up at your door. So there are possibilities. The thing about moving out here, it's just opening up doors. They're all open. It's just some are more difficult than others, you know, like the visas and things. So if you imagine you went through 30 doors to get out here, you had to open each one. Some of them you have to shake them a bit and twist the handle and maybe give them a kick and then they open. Other ones you can just push with your finger and they'll swing right on open. That's my analogy of it. You know, you just got to open doors, but none of them will be stuck. They'll all open if you do it the right way. If you're sensible and you follow these kind of tips and that I'm giving you here, you should be okay. So you can go back through this video if you are serious about moving out here and you didn't quite catch it the first time. You can go back through. You can leave your comments in the description below. Again, if you want to get in contact with me and just have a chat, you know, maybe 30 minutes, an hour, we can do that on the consultancy. It's been helpful for a lot of other guys. And to end the video, all I would say is don't worry about it too much. Don't think about all the things that can go wrong. Think about all the things that can change in your life. You know, I'm 63. If I wanted to, I can go out there and meet a beautiful woman of maybe 40 years old. I can't do that in the UK. Think about your life here. I can go out to a mall until midnight. I can go and sit on the river. I can go on a river cruise and have dinner going down the river. You know, I can drive down to Pattaya in 2 hours. You know, it's such a nice life out here. It really is. I'm not trying to rub salt into your wounds if you're stuck in a rainy, gloomy country, but if you are in a marriage which is failing, or you're just fed up, or you're in England and you've got the money to do it, then just head out here. You know, I mean, what's stopping you? And if you haven't got the money to come out here and live out here, just try and work hard and put some more money in the bank. Don't go out in England. Don't piss it up against the wall. Come out here and then really go on a budget. You know, live in a room if it's only for 6 months, and you know, make something of your life before it ends. You know, I mean, I'm 63. Let's hope I go at least another 20 years. Yeah, who knows? But at least I've ended it in the right way. All right, guys, waffling again as usual. I hope you found the video interesting. I hope you picked up on a few points. As I said earlier on, if there's anything you want to ask me, not in great detail, just a quick question, you just stick them in the comments below and I'll try and answer you. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope the video's been helpful, and I'll see you very, very soon.